Hello BookTube, it's Becky from Becky Writes. This is Becky Reads, and this is my September wrap-up video. September was a surprisingly good reading month for me. I read a bunch more books than I expected to, and I passed my 100 book challenge. Because there's so much to get through, this wrap-up video is going to come to you in 3 parts. Part 1, audiobooks. September was a epic audiobook month for me. I read 4 audiobooks. I was able to read several that I really enjoyed. I mean, I have to say, the audiobook game was on point for September. The first audiobook I finished in September was The Lost City of Z by David Grann. This is a really fascinating non-fiction story of the Lost City of Z, or what we would call El Dorado, and Percy Fawcett, who was a famous explorer who went in search of it and disappeared in the Amazon. Percy Fawcett is one of the inspirations for Indiana Jones, and he is a real-life Renaissance man who explored the Amazon and other crazy jungles. Fawcett became convinced that El Dorado, or Z, an extensive Amazonian-based empire with buildings and major systems of government, existed in the Amazon. In the 1920s, early 1930s, Fawcett went in search of it and disappeared. Subsequently, hundreds of people have gone in search of Percy Fawcett himself and have disappeared into the Amazon as well. David Grann is a researcher and reporter who decided he would try to track them down, and he himself would go to the Amazon. This is a great nonfiction piece. David Grann's insights were fantastic, the history was well researched, but it read almost like a novel, which is something that not a lot of nonfiction does. I gave this a strong 4 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend this not just because it's a great audiobook and a great piece of nonfiction, but also I believe in November this is being turned into a film that's coming out, and I know it's produced by Brad Pitt, and I don't know if Brad Pitt's going to be in it, but yeah, this nonfiction work is being turned into a movie, so if you want to get on it, this would be a great page-to-screen adaptation read if that's something you're interested in. The second audiobook that I read this month was The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. I wanted to start by saying I don't actually watch any of Shonda Rhimes' shows. I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, I don't watch Scandal, and I don't watch How to Get Away with Murder, mostly because I don't really watch a lot of television, except The X-Files. I am watching The X-Files. So I didn't start reading this book because I was a fan of Shonda Rhimes. I started it because it sounded interesting and I wanted to kind of see what it was about. Oh my goodness, I loved The Year of Yes. Shonda Rhimes reads the audiobook herself, and that adds such a great dimension to the memoir. In fact, I would say that this translates a whole lot better as an audiobook where you are hearing her tell the story than if you were to read it. There are so many phrases and ways of saying things that I just don't think you would pick up if you were reading it with your eyes and not hearing the way that she has inflections around how she talks and embodies herself and tells her story. The Year of Yes is about Shonda Rhimes deciding that although she's an introvert and she in some ways is painfully shy, she was going to say yes to things that challenged her for a whole year. And that led to things like interviews, giving speeches, and putting herself out there in a way that she as a writer was not used to or comfortable with. It was about challenging her own boundaries around being comfortable and secure, putting herself out there, and realizing things about herself that she knew but had never really articulated. One of the most important ones for me was that she realized she didn't ever want to marry, even though she had chosen to adopt children and become a mom. That was really powerful because it's something that I wrestle with all the time, and I had never really seen a powerful woman state that. It still is to this day an idea that women have to get married in order to be fulfilled. Even if having children is something that's now negotiable, marriage doesn't seem like something that is. And to hear someone who is successful, who has chosen to be a mother, but who is skeptical around marriage was just powerful. That's by no means what the whole book is about, so don't think that it's all about that. It's a lot about her show, a lot about how she got where she is, a lot about how she struggles with insecurity and being out in public. It's about the hard work you have to put in when you are the kind of showrunner that she is, and it's about what you say yes to. I happen to love it, and I know it's not going to be for everybody. Shonda uses strong language, and she certainly has a way of articulating her feelings that either you are on the train with or you are like, no ma'am. So I would go ahead and preface that, but if you like her shows at all, I would say this is a great audiobook to pick up, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next audiobook I read was another great feminist work, and that was Shrill by Lindy West. Now, I was not familiar with Lindy West's work on the internet until I heard about Shrill from the fantastic Crystal Lynn. Thank you, Crystal. I decided to check it out as an audiobook through my library, and I was not disappointed. This is another book that I think translates particularly well as an audiobook because you're hearing the author tell her own story in her own words. Sometimes that means she's like extra funny, and she tells jokes like you would hear them told rather than just reading the jokes in a print form. And sometimes she's telling you difficult stories that are even more emotionally weighty because of the way that she can articulate her feelings through her words. I really enjoyed this. This is a collection of essays about Lindy West's life, talking about what it's like to be a feminist on the internet, talking about what it's like to be a fat woman in the world, talking about what it's like to basically not want to put up with shit from dudes. And there are a lot of dudes who are really mean to vocal women. I especially like the first two chapters when she's talking about what examples she had as a fat child for like role models, and they were all villains in Disney movies pretty much. And then she articulates this entire idea of how Baloo the bear is actually one of the doctors from Doctor Who. Like, for that alone, it is worth reading. I really appreciated everything she had to say. I appreciated the fact that she was brave in saying all of it, and I am a new fan. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and if I could recommend no single book on feminism I've read this year, I would probably recommend Shrill. And the last audiobook I finished this month was my only fiction audiobook of the month, and that was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Aaire Sanz. I read this book in part to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs from September 15th to October 15th, but I also have been wanting to read this for a while. I partially wanted to listen to it as an audiobook because Lin-Manuel Miranda reads it, which is awesome. I did a mini review of this book in my Diversathon wrap-up video, so I will link that down below in case you want to check that out. But overall, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This is the kind of book that I appreciate was not written for me. I am not the target audience, and so there were things about this book that I didn't love, but that's because I am not a teenage boy, and this book really is written for teenage boys. I thought it was sweet, I thought it was kind, and I especially thought Lin-Manuel Miranda did a fantastic job. Basically, if you could envision Lin-Manuel Miranda's face looking at you with his puppy dog eyes, that's kind of this book in a nutshell. For real. That's what I think. Part 2 of this wrap-up? Novels. I got through 3 different novels this month. 2 of them were for Diversathon. 1 of them was a buddy read, although I epically failed at my side of the buddy read challenge. Sorry, Caitlin! The first novel I finished this month was Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova, and I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I have done a mini review of this in my Diversathon wrap-up, which is linked down below. This is a story of Alex, and she is a bruja, or a witch, who doesn't want her powers, and in wishing them away, sends her family to a crazy alternative universe where she has to go and get them back. That's the story in a nutshell. I enjoyed it, and I will definitely be finishing the series, but I had some concerns, and again, you can check that out in my review. The second book I read, also for Diversathon, was Everything by Nicola Yoon. This was also included in my Diversathon wrap-up, which is down below in case you want more of my thoughts. I gave Everything 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed this, but again, there were a few things that I didn't love about it. This was really adorable, and this is the kind of book that you could probably read in one sitting. I just gobbled through this. It was completely readable, really cute, and I thought it was precious. I am here for Nicola Yoon, and I'm definitely going to be checking out her new release in November. The last novel that I finished this month was This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. Now, I am going to do a spoiler-free review of this, but it won't go up until later this week, so once it's posted, I will link it down below and in a card video so you can find it. But this is a story of Kate Harker and August Flynn. Kate is a human, August is a monster, and they live in a world in which violence creates monsters. Everything from a fist fight to getting shot to a terrible, horrible, violent act. They create different kinds of monsters, and they both find themselves as unlikely friends. I really enjoyed this. It surprised me because I heard some mixed reviews about it. I really liked the conversation about safety and how you're never really safe. I like that the characters were quite complex, and that this was a book based on friendship, not a romance, and it could have easily been a romance, but it's not. It's a book of friendship, and I really appreciated that, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Alright, part 3 of my wrap-up is comics. Now, my TBR jar challenge for this month was to read a comic bind-up or a graphic novel, and I decided to see if I could read widely. I didn't read as widely as I wanted, partially because I decided to read more novels this month, and partially because a lot of things were not available at my library, and I was not about to invest in a bunch of comics, but I did get through some different volumes. So here's what I read. I read volumes 1 and 2 of FullMetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa? I know I butchered that. I'm really sorry. This follows brothers Eric and Alphonse. They are both alchemists, but they have trespassed against the laws of alchemy, which kind of works like magic, but also is based in science. They trespassed the laws of alchemy in order to bring their dead mother back. Edward lost one of his legs and one of his arms, and Alphonse lost his entire physical body, and now must hang out inside that metal suit of armor cancer, and the story follows them as they are trying to find a way to get their bodies back. Here is what some of the art looks like. If you are new to reading Japanese manga, I think that this might be a really good one. If you have seen the anime, either version, this follows it pretty closely. Now, FullMetal Alchemist, the first FullMetal Alchemist, follows the manga up until about the halfway point in which the anime series got ahead of the manga series, and so the ending is different. FullMetal Alchemist Brotherhood, the second anime series, follows this manga completely through, and they have the same voice cast if that matters to you. The art is really similar, and if you've seen the anime, these are identical to the episodes. I really enjoyed both of these, but because I've seen both anime series, because I have a secret love for anime, I probably won't continue with these since I already know the entire plot. But if you are new to manga, or if you haven't seen the anime, I would totally recommend checking these out. Next series I read were the first 3 trade volumes of Ms. Marvel. So this is Ms. Marvel Volume 1, Ms. Marvel Volume 2, and Ms. Marvel Volume 3. Surprisingly enough, I really enjoyed Ms. Marvel. There were some concerns that I have about the presentation of Pakistani American Muslims, about whether or not they're being a little bit pigeonholed around stereotypes, but I also really appreciate that these comics are allowing people into a very different way of inhabiting being an American. This is a reboot of the old Ms. Marvel comics with a brand new Ms. Marvel, and this new Ms. Marvel has to balance her secret identity as a superhero with also being a Pakistani American Muslim. Now, I gave all 3 volumes of this 4 out of 5 stars. These were funny. There were definitely laugh out loud moments, and I did enjoy them, but they ranged on being a little bit cheesy, and I have to say, this is reminding me why I don't actually like superhero comics, and I can't with confidence say I'll keep reading. Not because I think they're bad, but because I don't like superhero tropes, and these are definitely superhero tropes. I also read one more comic bind-up, and that was the Books of Magic Volume 1 by Neil Gaiman. The Books of Magic follows Timothy Hunter, a 12-year-old boy who's being introduced to the world of magic by 4 mysterious men who jokingly call themselves the Trenchcoat Brigade. These feature characters from some of Neil Gaiman's other works, including John Constantine, who is a personal favorite of mine, as they try to guide Timothy Hunter through 4 different segments of magic. Now, I believe this is the first volume in a 3 or 4 volume series that was like a special run during the early 90s. And this series has some incredibly beautiful artwork. I have to say the quality of artwork in this is stunning, especially compared to everything else I've read this month. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That is gorgeous. I really enjoyed the Books of Magic. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it did a really good job of wrestling with issues about belief and whether or not magic exists if you stop believing in it. I think that it would reach someone on a sort of middle, early high school level, but also as an adult, it kind of deals with different layers of meaning, and I appreciated that about this. I'm not sure if I'll continue reading the series. It will completely depend upon if my library has them. Yeah, it wasn't a bad read. I'm glad I read them. That is it. Those are the 12 books that I got through this month. My year-to-date reading is 105 books so far this year, which is pretty much amazing. Yes, I know that counts comic bind-ups, but at the rate that I'm going, I will definitely surpass the 100 book challenge without having to count comics, so I call all of it a win. I feel great about it. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite book of the month was. I think my 2 favorites are tied between Shrill and The Year of Yes. They were just such strong, fun, empowering reads, and I really do recommend them highly. I hope you guys are all doing really well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!